Different's great, but being different for the sake of being different, I'm not a big fan of, right? If you just want to be different for the sake
technology
of it.
Technology, I would hide behind it.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes.
Because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.
What's going on, LinkedIn? How's it going there? Let's get this done right. What's going on, friends? Steve Spear, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. And I am flying solo today. So my man, Rob G, is traveling this week. And I'm not totally solo. We do have a guest, an amazing guest that you're going to have an opportunity to hear from today. But I'm running the show. I'm playing both Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain here. So I'm doing everything I can here. So it's going to be a great show, a lot of fun, a lot of excitement. Interesting topic today, a topic that we don't normally touch on, but we do touch on a little bit. But this is a little bit, on the edge a little bit. So I think you're going to be intrigued, have a lot of fun with the topic. But yeah, I want to kind of give you a little bit of background on what we're going to talk about today. And hey, listen, so and by the way, get in the comments, connect with each other. This is the Master Connector show. So we don't know if you're watching the show unless we see you in the comments. So I'd love to have you get in the comments, tell us where you're from, tell us, where your city and state is, country, whatever. If you're liking what you hear today, share it, love it, like it, comment, right? And we also want to hear questions, right? If you got questions for our amazing guest, put it in the comments as well. But today is going to be on For the Love of Being You. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's going to be an amazing show. And so here's the deal, right? For the Love of Being You encapsulates the essence of embracing one's authentic self amidst the pressure of society. Okay. Listen, there's a lot of stuff going on, and, just being able to appreciate you and accept you for who you are. No judgment. Is tough. And sometimes with all the outside forces, that is tough for us, right? But it's about cherishing the unique qualities and quirks that makes each individual irreplaceable, okay? I could be a little quirky, right? If you know me pretty well, you understand that, right? So, but you know what? I'm okay with who I am, right? It's about cherishing the unique qualities and, and this sentiment encourages self-acceptance, urging people to embrace their flaws, strengths, and everything in between. In a world that often dictates norms and standards, loving oneself becomes a radical act of defiance and a celebration of one's intrinsic worth. It's about recognizing that true happiness stems from within, and that embracing one's true self is the key to living a fulfilling life. For the Love of Being You is a mantra that inspires confidence, self-respect, and ultimately a deeper connection with one's self and others. So if you're ready, community, I want you to put in the hashtag right now, right in the comments right now, put in "Let's go," because I'm going to start to introduce our amazing guest, and I'm going to do it best I can. Obviously, Rob does this part, but here we go. Let's go here. Cordelia Gaffar, the ultimate joy goddess and CEO of Cordelia Gaffar Enterprises, is a best-selling author, speaker, and host of the Free to Be Show podcast. Cordelia's journey led her to rediscover many ancient body wisdom, mindfulness practices, intertwining them from Aboriginal cultures across the globe. The result, the 4 mind alignment, TM, unveiled in November 2022 after 2 years of client studies and 5 years of research. She helps women of faith to consider pleasure a possibility. Check that out. We're going to have some fun with this topic. Multi-orgasmic aging is that regenerative enlightenment that only comes from within, so you can truly love yourself from the inside out. Releasing, eliminating, and alchemizing. Interesting word. Way bigger than my vocabulary. toxins and toxic ways of being while merging the authentic self and created representative. Sorry, guys. Learning disabled guy is reading a lot here, so that's just not a good thing. But here we go anyway. And that results in you regaining balance, mental and emotional clarity, and the ability to exist fully expressed as her true, authentic self. So, if you're ready, like I said, let's welcome to the show the amazing Cordelia Gaffar. Welcome to the show, Cordelia.
Hi, Steve. Congratulations. You did a great job. Thank
I
you.
appreciate that. Oh man, I got to tell my guests if I'm the one that's going to be the intro guy, I need it to be like 2 or 3 words, like
Mm.
or maybe a few sentences. But anyway, it's all good. This was great, and we got through it, and here we are, and we're gonna have an amazing time. So good to see you. So glad to have you on the show. I know I got a chance to hear you speak at a different event that I invited you to, and that was fun. And I know the reaction was pretty amazing. So this is going to be a great show. So. Um, where are you tuning in from? I think I forget now.
Yeah, in a flood zone called Washington, D.C.
Oh boy. Okay. All right. Well, we're glad to have you here. I know not far from you, Maryland had some tragic stuff going on with the bridge, right? It's
Yeah,
just
yesterday.
our hearts and prayers and thoughts go to the people that have been affected by that. I know there's some people that I believe are missing, and I'm not sure what the deal is with that. But I want to welcome a few people before we get into that. Hey, good to see you, Jackie. Jackie's in the house. We got Yolanda, amazing Yolanda Chin here. She's saying, let's go. Absolutely. She wants to welcome you. There you go. And
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, Yolanda. One thing about Yolanda, she'll always encourage us. And
Mhm.
that's amazing. So she's a great cheerleader. Having her in our corner is amazing. So but anyway, let's get rolling here. So I want you, community, if you're ready, I want you to type in the word practices, because we're going to chat about some things that you can do, practical things that Cordelia is going to talk about, and maybe you can give us a little bit of context if you want to expand on this question. But here's the question, Cordelia, right?
Mhm.
What daily practices do you recommend for cultivating a mindset? I'm sorry, cultivating a mindful start to the day, and how can individuals tailor these practices to suit their unique needs?
Yeah. So often we start our day with what we have to do, and we don't stop to just be in the moment. So one of the things that help people to get out of their head, right, and straight into the beingness of themselves is to have a theme each day, right? Then you don't have to think like today's winning Wednesday. So instead of what do I have to do today? How can I win today? It's like a complete different frame. And so every day I create, like every day has a theme. So we can talk about those themes too if you would like. But it's,
Sure.
I don't want to give suggestions on what to call your days, like what seems most natural to you. I chose these themes and they have evolved over time as I evolve and as I change, right? So I have it now called Take Pause Tuesday, Once Upon a Time. And if you read my book, Detached Love, you'll see, I think there it's Timeout Tuesday, right? Two different embodiments there. So timeout is kind of like, I need a break, right? And like take pause is like, you're being more proactive, you're in control.
I love that. And what's interesting is, right, I discovered probably 4 or 5 years ago sort of my own practices, right? I don't have a theme like you do, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, right? The Take Pause Tuesday here, but I want to touch on that in a bit. But one of the things that I do is a practice, a morning practice. It starts with I listen to an audio. While I'm making my coffee, I listen to an audio book, and then after that I do stretching, and then from there I go and while I'm stretching, do some self talk, and then I get on the spin bike and I do my spinning, and then push ups and sit ups, and then I do some spiritual reading, and then some self not it's a gratitude list, right? And then
Mhm.
actual creative visualization, and that's kind of my my morning practice, and I feel really good about it because I'm putting me first, right? It's the
Yeah.
first thing I could do. And I heard it said years ago, you control the controllables, right?
Mhm.
Um, but anyway, so good stuff. So yeah, I want to do touch on that. I just want to acknowledge here. Okay, we got Jackie putting in hashtag proactive. I love that. Yeah, because listen, you what you do, you're taking control of what you can do, right? You're being proactive, right? John, good to see you, sir. John's in the house. How do you help others get over the I feel stuck? So I guess that's a question for you. You want to maybe, if you can you maybe give your perspective on that for John?
Yeah, John, that's a great question. Sometimes we literally feel like we're in the mud. And this may shock you, but just allow yourself to imagine actually being in mud. Like, just take up to 90 seconds. And if it helps, put on a timer and just imagine what it feels like being actually in the mud. And then compare that to what's really happening. And your logical mind will kick in and be like, yeah, no, I'm not like in that yucky, heavy stuff holding me down. Like, actually, what's really happening is, right? And you get activated and then you find solutions. So experiment with that. I often, and you'll hear me say experiment a lot, just experimenting with something different. Yeah.
Love that. I just want to acknowledge I showed her hashtag, but Lisa, good to have you on the show here. It's a good friend of mine from
Hi,
the
Lee.
West Coast. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so I agree with what you just said. I heard action, cures fears, action, when you feel stuck, just do something. Just start moving, right? Not to be cliche or get spiritual, but I heard God can't steer a parked car, right? And you just gotta just start to move, and then you'll get directed, right? It's just something. Do something,
And
right?
interestingly, even so, right, I was saying to imagine the feeling of being in mud. So technically, you're not actually physically doing something, but you are because that visualization is like you're doing something?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Jackie says, "Love that, Cordelia. Allow yourself to feel the emotions, or mentally put yourself into the imagined emotions you're in." That's
yeah.
the good stuff. Absolutely. And Lisa says, hashtag action. Very, very cool. Awesome. All right. So yeah, let's get into that. We sort of alluded to it. You mentioned Take Pause Tuesday. So put it community, type in hashtag pause, because obviously we're LinkedIn participants, and so far you guys have been great in terms of participation. Thank you for getting in the comments. Thank you, John, for the question. Anyone else have questions? Make sure put them in the comments. We love that. We appreciate that. Remember, this show is for you. This is not our show. This is your show, community. So let's get in there and yeah, as you're doing, which is awesome. But we want to talk about the next part of this here. So we're going to talk about not practices, pause.
Yes.
So here's the question, right? Could you elaborate? You mentioned the concept of taking pause Tuesday, and it's significant in maintaining emotional well-being and self-nurturing. Can you kind of expand
Yeah.
a little? Yeah.
After all the action of Monday, right? Like you really kicking yourself into Tuesday. You're like, okay, yeah, I gotta do this. I gotta, make this week awesome. And what if you just experimented with pausing? It's like, today I have a whole lot on my plate and I'm going to pause for the cause of me. In order for me to step in and step up to that plate that I've got ready for me today, who do I have to be? So pause to be the who in order to step into action on your Tuesday.
I love that. One of the things that I've heard recently from one of my mentors, and he said you need to first imagine and become first in your mind who you want to be. You have to kind of imagine it first, right? You have to sort of convince yourself, okay, I am this person. And when you're that person, then you'll act that way, and then it'll manifest eventually. So it's sort of along the lines of what you're saying. I love that. That's great. Um, cool. All right, so we're gonna keep moving here. And again, we've got some great participation going on here. So we want to talk about let go, not let's go, but let go. So this is going to be a good one. So here's the question for you, right? As an embodiment coach, how do you guide individuals in letting go of unhelpful habits or ways of being that no longer serve them?
Yeah. And again, it goes back to experimentation. Like, what would it be like if I did it differently today or this time? So let's say you have the habit of in relationships just being very rigid and not giving people any kind of give, right? Or even as a manager, you're very rigid. But what if you experimented with the possibility of having compassion, right? It's like, man, boy, do I hate when people just hold me to the cross. Like, what if I could be that person for them that would give them the compassion to just, understand that they may have a certain way of being and become curious about that. And so just experimenting with shifting yourself into curiosity really releases and alchemizes lots of things. And we can talk about that word.
Yeah, I couldn't even pronounce that word, so I
You did
appreciate that
well.
one. I appreciate that. You know, what you're speaking about reminds me. It's different, but related, right? The idea of letting go. So one thing that happened for me I'll have two different things. Like it's two stories I could tell you. Number one, when I was in playing tennis before I started the martial arts, I was heavy into tennis, 6, 7 days a week, 4 or 5 hours a day. I was starting to compete with the USTA, but I would choke. I would choke. I would play people that were not that were not as good as me, that technically, but I would lose because I would be in my head and I was just like, okay, what if I miss this serve or whatever it is, right? Then fast forward, I went into the martial arts, and about, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 months later, and I had stopped practicing playing tennis. Even I think it was like a year later. And I went to just play for a day. And you know what? I was great.
Yeah.
I had kind of overcome, in the martial arts and karate, they talk about Zen Buddhism, and it's a sort of this moving Zen that's talked about. I'm not a Buddhist or anything, but I do believe that there's a power in just sort of being and
Hmm.
not necessarily, having to think, but just be. And so I took that into tennis, and I was starting to now not only win against people that I'm supposed to win based upon their skill set, but I
Right.
was starting to beat some people that were a little better than me. I wound up going to a tennis, um, it was a club, and the pro. Now I don't know if he was being light on me. Maybe he was. I don't know, but I beat him. Maybe it was, yeah. So
Nice.
it was, yeah. I mean, it's not a thank you. It's not about that I won per se. It's the lesson there. And then last thing I'll tell you real quick. I was challenged to go to a silent meditation retreat, which is the most unusual, interesting experience I've ever had in my life. Because at this place, you were told, don't look people in the eye. So here we are, we're all walking around and you can't look at anybody and nobody's saying anything. It was really interesting. But day one, I really got what I needed for the whole thing. And I'm glad I stayed. It was like 5 days. But I looked outside and I saw a bird on a branch. And I'm like, you know what? It's okay. You know, they're okay. I'm okay. It's okay. Like, everything's okay. Like, I don't know, it's somehow watching the bird on the branch, I just said, "You know what? It's okay." And since then, I started to have even more peace, and most importantly, because that's what the topic is today, right? Which is, in case you're wondering, you're tuning in, right? Today's your show is For the Love of Being You, and it was finding peace about myself, right? Because I was always judging myself, right? I always looked at myself and compared myself to other people and always fell short. Always, I played the judgment game and comparison game, and I always lost, right? So, but yeah, anyway, I appreciate the idea of letting go. So it's good stuff. But I do want to move on.
Hmm.
So let's talk about well-being, right? So community, type in hashtag well-being. And here's the question for you, Cordelia, right? Why is it essential to prioritize personal development? Love that, because I'm a big personal development guy. Prioritize personal development and have a support system in place. And what role does it play in achieving overall well-being?
Yeah. Personal development is it's like the food for the soul and for the mind, you know? Um, we eat and we drink, but what do we input into our minds? And so that's really the whole recipe, right? That's the cocktail of well-being. And it's very important. I what call replenish me, right, is a sustainable practice of self-nurturing. And those sustainable practices of self-nurturing are things that you embody over time. They become your habits, they become your way of being. And when you have a practice of nurturing yourself, like for the love of yourself, then you will pull in, right? You'll magnetize those people to you and you'll be that in community. And then you'll even, magnetize people that require that in their lives. So, yeah.
Oops, almost unmuted. I almost forgot to unmute there, but here we go. That's amazing, right? Well, we are kind of getting closer towards the time we got to get going. So I want to keep this rolling. This has been great. So, um, this is the Master Connector Show, and we're all about connecting. So I want the community type in hashtag connecting, and here's the question for you there, Cordelia. Right? Can you share some practical strategies for staying connected to the practice of pausing amidst the hustle and bustle of daily life?
Yeah. I am going to share some things that I call the art of intimacy, right? And so, like I said, first thing in the morning, connect with your breath. I didn't actually say that before, but instead of, as soon as the thoughts roll in, just breathe. And then pick your body up, go to the mirror, and gaze upon yourself. And say something endearing, right? Something like the opposite of whatever comes to your mind. So if it's like, this is going to be a horrible day, say, this is going to be a magnificent day,
Yeah,
because words matter. So, yeah,
absolutely.
breathe, gaze upon yourself, and speak positively. Sweet talk.
I love all of that, but the part that I resonate the most with is the self-talk, right? There's the good book says there's power in the tongue, and the tongue is like the rudder of the ship. It says, and you know what the mouth is a keyboard to this great computer we have, and we're programming ourselves constantly, good or bad. And what I also found is, and scientifically, there's studies to prove this, but we hear differently when we're speaking because when we speak, we may not be hearing it mostly from the outer ear, but we're hearing it from the inner ear because it's resonating through our body, and that inner ear is actually being going to the subconscious brain, which Think and Grow Rich talks about the connection with the cosmic habit force, which is
Mhm.
code word for God, higher power, universe. Okay, what do you got there?
I'm just
Show me.
picking this up. This is a sound bowl.
There you go.
So, there's something called sound healing, and
Yeah,
the most healing we do is with this bowl right here.
yeah,
So I call it sweet talk.
love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and so if you want to change your life, change how you speak. Yeah, and for years, we've been programmed with people around us. Now, certainly that's the outer ear, right? Because we're hearing it outside. But there's influence, and that's still going in, right? Like, when a parent might say, "Oh, you're going to be a loser when you grow up," or "You're always eating, you're going to be fat," and then of course people grow up to be fat, right? Because it's been programmed, right? So just be careful what you say. So I appreciate that big time. All right, we're going to slip in one more question, and feel free to elaborate on this one, and then also if you want, maybe wrap up with practical ways or ways that you'd love for people. Number one, any final takeaways, and then we would love to hear how the best way for the community to get in touch with you as well. But community, type in hashtag overcome, because we are the Master Connector Show, and one of our pillars, if you part of this community, our one pillar is having the grit to overcome obstacles. So type in overcome, and here's the question, and as we're wrapping up here, what advice do you have for individuals who struggle to integrate daily mindfulness practices into their routine, and how can they overcome common obstacles?
Yeah. Resistance, right? So what you resist persists. So just simply don't resist it. Like I said, be curious about yourself. Be curious about who you are, what you can create with each day, and just simply view each thing as an experiment. When something happens that you don't like and you say you screwed up or it's a mistake, I have a definition for screwed up. It's if it's in creating intentional disharmony. If
Wow.
you did not create intentional disharmony, then you didn't screw up.
Mm, love that. Um, you said something, a little catchphrase about resistance is persistence? No.
Mhm. Yeah, what you resist persist.
What you resist persists.
Mhm.
Love that. Okay.
So if you're like, "I cannot meditate," guess what? You can't. But
Yeah.
if you say, "I really desire to meditate," that itself is a meditation because your intention is to meditate.
Awesome. Yeah. Good stuff. All right. So here we are, right? We're getting here. I know you have a free offer. So first of all, tell the community best way to reach you. And then I'm gonna post here about your free offer. And then maybe you could tell the community a little bit about your offer as well. But let's start with how they best can reach you.
Mhm.
And then we'll talk about the offer.
I love LinkedIn. I've got a newsletter here, so connect with me here on LinkedIn. And if you're too shy to do that, you can subscribe to my newsletter, which is called You Are the Possibility. And above and beyond that, I also have a podcast of my own called The Free to Be Show, which you can subscribe to. My free offer is along the lines of what we've been talking about today. It's actually helping you to create intentional practices of intimacy and deeper self nurturing. So, this is an opportunity to join my newsletter where every Saturday, I call that Self Nurturing Saturday, I send out a newsletter with tips for you to experiment with and get curious about and take upon as practices.
You got all these really cool phrases and alliterations, right? What did you call Saturday?
Self Nurturing Saturday.
Self-nurturing Saturday. I love
Yeah.
it. Awesome. Well, Cordelia, we really appreciate you. You blessed our community in a big way, and we hope to have you on here again at some point soon. But have an amazing rest of the day, and I'm going to put you in the green room, but hopefully we'll get a chance to chat again just
It's
before
been a
you
joy to
head
be
out.
here. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you. All right, community. That's great stuff. Um, so listen, if you haven't picked up my book, if you love the idea of self-development, like Cordelia was talking about, pick up the Master Connector, the Tao of a Master Connector. It's my labor of love. So again, self-promotion, but shameless self-promotion, but it's all good. Um, Make sure you pick it up, and you can also get it in. We have it in hardcover form, as well as um, the Audible version. I am an Audible guy. If you know me a little bit, that's my jam. So it's available in all types. So please feel free to pick it up. I just threw it in the comments. So if you want the link, you can grab it there. But next week we're gonna have an amazing guest, April 3rd, which is Wednesday next week, 1 p.m. Eastern. Right, same bad time, same bad channel. Topic is going to be on creating true human connection. Right, and our guest is going to be Mike Montag. I'm not sure if I'm saying his. He'll correct me when he's on the show with us next week. But it's going to be great. And listen, if you're interested in hosting a show, because we're definitely looking for people that want to host a show, and go to the masterconnector.show website. You can go there also, not only for that, but also find out about the next shows coming up. We've got multiple weeks posted up there, and you can find out the topics that are coming up, and then also make sure you register for them and don't miss them as well. But here's the deal. I'm going to tell another story, and it's probably going to be a new tradition for me. But in the face of societal pressures, John struggled to accept himself until he met a mentor who showed him the power of self-love. Embracing his uniqueness, John became a beacon of positivity, spreading joy and inspiring others to shine their light, igniting a ripple effect of self-acceptance and empowerment. Remember, community, let's always make sure to be the light. And we'll see you next week. God bless, and have an amazing day.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.